Tonight,
we went through the most traumatic moments in our modern history.
Israelis mark 2 years since the October 7th attacks. A look at the global fallout from the war with Hamas and the push for peace as the families of hostages cling to hope. Plus, government stalemate.
Wake up, do the right thing, and stop inflicting pain on the American people.
Republicans and Democrats dig in.
Tens of millions of people are about to experience dramatically increased health insurance costs. How is that acceptable?
The latest on the budget negotiations as the nation braces for a prolonged government shutdown. And a look at America's homeless epidemic and the Christian call to action. All this and more tonight on Faith Nation. Two years since the darkest day in Israel's history, the October 7th massacre that shocked the world still ripples across the region. Good evening, I'm John Jessup.
And in Washington, I'm Jenna Browder. Well, 2 years after Hamas's deadly attack on Israel, families are still grieving and waiting. On that Black Saturday, Hamas murdered more than 1,200 people in a surprise attack and dragged 250 people into Gaza. Today, just 20 hostages are believed to be alive in Hamas captivity.
Negotiators in Egypt are fighting for their release and an end to the war as Israel marks an anniversary it will never forget. CBN Middle East Bureau Chief Chris Mitchell reports.
Negotiating teams for Hamas and Israel are meeting in Cairo to secure the release of the hostages and end the war. All of this coming as a result of the October 7th Hamas invasion.
That morning, terrorists broke through Israel's barriers, killing families, kidnapping civilians, and shocking the world. It became Israel's worst day in modern history, followed by a war with widespread impact.
In Israel, we know almost everyone has a family relative, either was in the event or injured or kidnapped or wounded or murdered.
Through it all, leaders praised the role of American and evangelical support for Israel in its darkest hour.
We went through the most traumatic moments in our modern history. Nobody ever thought that something like that could happen in Israel, in our sovereign territory. It unleashed also the hatred and the anti-Semitism that was boiling up in the world. And so we've seen the worst of humanity in every single way, but at the same time, we've seen the best of humanity.
In 2 years, Israel has defeated or degraded multiple enemies.
I think that we're moving steadily towards a huge victory on all fronts. We defeated Hezbollah, Syria, Iran, and we're now on the verge of a big victory also in Gaza.
General Amir Avivi points out Israel's 12-day war defied logic.
Look, fighting 2,000 kilometers from here without losing even one plane, it cannot be explained but a miracle.
Despite the victories, Israel, the Jewish people, and the world have witnessed an unprecedented rise in anti-Semitism that's shaken support of Israel, even reaching into the church.
I see it all around the world. This year alone, I'm in Nigeria, Indonesia, Korea, Germany, the United Kingdom, all over the world. Pastors, denominations, ministries are wrestling with this question. And so I think that the choice has never been clearer. I think of Elijah on Mount Carmel. If Baal is God, serve him. But if the Lord is God, serve him. The global church has to decide, do you serve the God of Israel? Do you serve the God of the Bible or not? But individual believers are feeling in their heart as never before, I must take a stand on behalf of the Jewish people and the land of Israel.
At this point, the question remains, what might be ahead for Israel?
Our sovereignty in Judea and Samaria, our reality in the Negev and the Galilee, we need to settle these areas. We have to focus inside on one hand, but also look at the Jewish world and understand that we'll have to defend Jews everywhere in the world and really facilitate their ability to come and live in Israel.
To mark the 2-year anniversary, the International Christian Embassy brought more than 600 Christians from over 50 nations to join local residents to honor the dead, pray for the living, and build for the future. Chris Mitchell, CBN News, Jerusalem.
Yeah. All right, thank you, Chris. Well, here in Washington, it is day 7 of the government shutdown. A vote before the Senate today on the same 2 funding bills, with lawmakers at a mostly partisan standoff regarding changes to health care.
CBN Capitol Hill correspondent Michelle London continues to track the latest from the halls of Congress. So, London, what are some of the ways the shutdown is already impacting communities across the country?
Well, first of all, John, so far, no ending to this in sight, at least not according to the House Speaker, who told reporters earlier a vote is not likely today. He was very clear that for every week that passes, some real hardships would follow for federal working families. Take a listen.
A month-long shutdown would mean not just 750,000 federal civilian employees furloughed right now, but an additional 43,000 more unemployed Americans across the economy, because that is the effect, the ripple effect that it has in the private sector.
Yeah, in these times of uncertainty, even impacting flights right now, the Federal Aviation Administration says staffing issues are causing delays at several airports across the country. And get this, some 13,000 air traffic controllers and about 50,000 TSA officers must still show up for work during the shutdown. They're not being paid right now, but the FAA says they'll be paid retroactively after the shutdown ends. But there is more to this. As funding streams stop, nutrition programs for women, infant and children, or WIC, are also being shuttered. And Border Patrol agents, those who are called to protect and serve us, are now doing so without pay. John, Jenna?
Yeah, you know, this has been a battle on both sides digging in. Both sides, though, they seem to have very different visions of what spending and a resolution should look like.
That is correct. Johnson's consistent message is that Republicans in the House and Senate stand united and continue to do the right thing. They're calling on a handful of Democrats to join them in voting for a 7-week stopgap funding measure to, quote, keep the lights on. But Democrats are showing little signs of budging from their demand for concessions on health care. Here's Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries.
Democrats in the House and Democrats in the Senate continue to hold the line on behalf of the American people. Why? Because we're fighting to protect their health care.
And Democrats say they're fighting to restore those Medicaid cuts made by Republicans, but they also want that short-term 7-week funding to include extending Obamacare tax credits so health insurance premiums don't go up for millions of Americans. Those subsidies are set to expire by the end of the year.
Coming up right around the corner. So, London, can you tell us what happens next?
Yeah, it is unclear where these negotiations currently stand, John. But yesterday, Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer refuted President Trump's claim that talks are ongoing between Democrats and the White House. Meanwhile, the severity of the shutdown is about to intensify. Federal workers are expected to get one more paycheck at the end of the week, reflecting the work they've done through September 30th, then won't get another paycheck until the shutdown ends. But on a brighter note, I want to add that something unusual happened during the GOP presser as Johnson actually brought out his Bible to the House floor and started with a message of hope, reading from Psalm 37, verses 3 through 7, a familiar passage that says in part to trust in the Lord and do good, dwell in the land and enjoy safe pasture, delighting yourself in the Lord, and he will give you the desires of your heart. That's one of my favorite passages. So Johnson offering a call to believers there, reminding us all, even during challenging events like this government shutdown, to keep our focus on the Lord. John, Jenna.
Yeah.
All right.
Delight yourself in the Lord. That's a good word.
Also on Capitol Hill today, Attorney General Pam Bondi faced tough questions from Senate lawmakers over how she's leading the Justice Department.
Yeah, Bondi sparred with Democrats over decisions to prosecute President Trump's perceived political enemies, with Democrats arguing the prosecutions, like that of the former FBI Director James Comey, are politically motivated.
What has taken place since January 20th, 2025 would make even President Nixon recoil. This is your legacy, Attorney General Bondi. In 8 short months, you have fundamentally transformed the Justice Department and left an enormous stain in American history. it will take decades to recover.
When I was confirmed as the 87th Attorney General of the United States, I took office with two main goals: to end the weaponization of justice and return the department to its core mission of fighting violent crime. As to ending the weaponization of justice, we learned that former FBI secretly investigated you and your colleagues. Why? They wanted to take President Trump off the playing field. They were playing politics with law enforcement powers and will go down as a historic betrayal of public trust. This is the kind of conduct.
And Bondi also faced continued questions over the Epstein files. She accused Democrats of being insincere in their demands to release more information about the case. Meanwhile, at the Supreme Court, justices appear ready to side with a Christian therapist challenging Colorado's ban on so-called conversion therapy. The therapist claims the state law violates her free speech rights, arguing she would be allowed to talk with minors about changing their sexual orientation or gender identity. The justices pressed both sides on whether conversion therapy hurts kids.
Doesn't Colorado have some evidence that conversion therapy more broadly is harmful? I mean, I think there are like 25 states or something who have similar laws. So someone has some evidence related to the harmfulness of this activity, right?
Colorado certainly cites studies, but those studies suffer from significant flaws. The main flaw in all of them is that they lump together dissimilar approaches. They treat voluntary conversations the same as shock therapy.
The state cannot be required to let its vulnerable young people waste their time and money on an ineffective, harmful treatment just because that treatment is delivered through words. Petitioner asked you to enjoin a bipartisan law passed by 25 different states, but she did not put one single piece of evidence into the record. Not a single expert, not a single study, not a single mental health professional willing to endorse conversion therapy. And there is a mountain of evidence to the contrary.
And the court's decision, expected by June, could affect more than 20 states with similar laws and potentially redefine how far free speech protections extend in therapy settings.
Coming up, shocking text messages rocking the Virginia race for Attorney General and the fallout just weeks before the election.
Welcome back. Well, shockwaves continue in the Virginia Attorney General's race as one candidate faces pressure to drop out. Democratic nominee Jay Jones is apologizing after text messages surfaced showing him wishing death on a former Republican lawmaker and his family.
The uproar comes in the wake of growing national concern over heated political rhetoric. CBN national security correspondent Caitlin Burke joins us now for more. Caitlin.
John, Jenna, the text messages have thrust an already tight race into the national spotlight. While Jay Jones admitted his words were wrong, he still plans to stay in the race.
That language has no place in our discourse, and I am so remorseful for what happened.
Jones sent the messages in 2022 when he was in Virginia's House of Delegates to Republican colleague Delegate Kerry Coyner. In referring to then Republican House Speaker Todd Gilbert, Jones says, quote, 3 people, 2 bullets. Gilbert, Hitler, Pol Pot. Gilbert gets 2 bullets to the head. He goes on saying, quote, spoiler, put Gilbert in the crew with the 2 worst people you know, and he receives both bullets every time. Coyner asked Jones to stop. He then later called her to further explain his reasoning, at one point suggesting that Gilbert's wife, Jennifer Wishon, should watch her 2 young children die in her arms so that Gilbert might reconsider his political views. Coyner then hung up on Jones. He again began texting, and when she pushed back, he responded, quote, I mean, do I think Todd and Jennifer are evil and that they're breeding little fascists? Yes.
This is demented. And here we have the Democrat candidate running for Attorney General, the top cop in Virginia, wishing not only that he had 2 bullets to put in a guy's head, but then he wishes death on his children. And Todd Gilbert has small kids.
Republicans, including Virginia Governor Glenn Youngkin and President Donald Trump, are calling for Jones to leave the race. Within his own party, condemnation is growing, although so far Democrats have stopped short of asking him to withdraw. Democratic gubernatorial nominee Abigail Spanberger released this statement saying, quote, I spoke frankly with Jay about my disgust with what he said and texted. I made clear to Jay that he must fully take responsibility for his words. She went on to say, quote, "As the next governor of our Commonwealth, I will always condemn violent language in our politics." Editor and publisher of Inside Elections, Nathan Gonzalez, a CBN News contributor, says the Virginia election is critical for Democrats.
This is the first opportunity that Democrats have to try to regain some ground that they lost in 2024. So this isn't just a normal race for state attorney general.
While Gonzalez says this issue could affect the entire Democrat ticket, he adds the election would allow Virginia voters to be the final voice on whether Jones is qualified to serve.
Two things can be true at the same time, that there are voters who condemn what Jay Jones texted, but also believe that other things are a higher priority, including which party is in control of government.
As Virginians head to the polls next month, this race is now about more than policy. It's about character and the consequences of words. With the temperature of American politics at a boiling point, the question is, how many more warning signs will it take before both sides cool down the rhetoric? John, Jenna?
All right, Caitlin, thank you. And coming up, a faith-based ministry on a mission to end homelessness. We chat with the CEO next.
Well, welcome back. Hundreds of Texas National Guard troops are now on the ground in Chicago as the showdown over President Trump's federal crackdown escalates. The president deployed 200 military personnel to Illinois. Both the city and state are challenging the deployment in court. A federal judge did not immediately grant a temporary restraining order, but called the move, quote, problematic. Meanwhile, the administration is appealing a judge's orders blocking his attempts to send troops from Oregon and California to deal with protests in Portland. The president says he's considering invoking the Insurrection Act to bypass the courts.
Well, as the White House pushes ahead with its federal crackdown on crime and homelessness, one organization is sparking honest conversations about homelessness.
Starting October 9th, and more than 70 ministries across the country will set up benches outside their facilities, inviting neighbors, civic leaders, and people who've experienced homelessness to sit down and talk. For more about this event, we're now joined by Tom DeVries, President and CEO of Citygate Network.
Tom, welcome. Good to have you with us. So you call it 24 hours of conversation on a bench. Tell us about what it is you're doing, the vision behind it, and what you're hoping to accomplish.
Yeah, I really appreciate the opportunity to be able to share about, can you imagine sitting on a bench for 24 hours? And we're going to have 70 CEOs doing that coming up on October 9 and 10, and really having the opportunity to raise awareness about what homelessness really is, and be able to share some of the stories of really seeing people overcome the challenges that they have in living on the streets, experiencing homelessness, to be able to talk about what are the issues that really underlie this what's really an epidemic of homelessness in the United States today, and how are we as Christians to respond to that and be able to bring help and healing in the midst of it.
You talk about underlying reasons. So homelessness doesn't always get the coverage it deserves, and it often involves addiction and mental health. Can you tell us more about the ministry of Citygate Network and why you believe working to end homelessness is central, it's core to the gospel?
Yeah, I think the Citygate Network really has been around for over 120 years, and it really was people who wanted to live out their faith and saw those that were really struggling with addiction, mental health issues, alcoholism, those kinds of things way back in the 1800s that said, how can we respond with the love of Christ? And Citygate Network was really started with that vision. And so we have rescue missions and ministries that help those that are aging out of foster care or trafficking, many of those that are the vulnerable populations, those that are marginalized, and being able to just live and love like Jesus to those folks who often have nobody who's reaching out to help them.
Yeah. So, of course, Washington, D.C. has a large homeless population and has been in the news recently as the National Guard cleared out the homeless encampments. Tom, can you talk about the balance between community safety and what some have criticized as an approach that compounds the problem?
Yeah, and we certainly are concerned about safety and at-risk behaviors. And really one of the things is looking and saying, is it about policy or is it about people? And is it about criminalization or is it about compassion? And we certainly want to ensure that there are policies that provide protection and safety for people. But at the same time, recognizing that many times people that are on the street or experiencing homelessness have burned through their social networks. They've burned through their relationships, and they have nowhere else to go. And that's really where our shelters in missions around the country open up their doors to be able to provide safe places for them that can then create safe places in communities.
Tom, we just have a few seconds left. Can you talk about ways that people can get involved, whether they participate in the conversation or they support your effort?
Yeah, we'd love it. You can go to conversationsonAbench.org and you can look up the more than 70 different cities and communities that are sponsoring this conversation. And you can watch it via Facebook or YouTube. You could also even go down to the mission and sit on the bench and have a conversation with the local CEO. You can also volunteer in a rescue mission or continue to give. 95% of what our missions do from a funding standpoint is all through private philanthropy and charity.
All right.
And so a number of ways to help.
Tom DeVries with Citygate Network, thank you so much for being with us this evening, and best wishes on the 24 Hours on a Bench.
Thanks, Tom.
Thanks, Tom.
And still ahead, a couple of dogs living the highway life. That's next on Faith Nation.
Well, finally tonight, a couple of rescue dogs, Jenna, in Kansas are living the high life on the highway.
Yeah, their best life. The dog's owner, he captures their adventures in videos that go viral on TikTok. Jerry Dale loves to take his dogs out for a ride. Soon after he rescued his pit bull mix Harper from a shelter and Charlie from the middle of the road, he had the idea to let them join in too. So Harper sits in a sidecar while little Charlie rides in a vet-approved backpack, both dogs sporting what Jerry calls doggles. Charlie even knows when he can finally take them off. A special talent captured in a video that has picked up more than 20 million views.
All right, now you can take them off. Good job.
He's a smart dog. Well, millions of people around the world love tuning into Jerry's TikTok videos for the trio's adventures around Kansas.
I had to lean in because I wasn't sure if they were wearing doggles.
Doggles. That's becoming a thing, I guess.
I love it. Well, thanks for watching.
Have a great night. That's pretty cute.